Hey, so I've spent the weekend looking at the Robinhood Gold offer because it's been really pretty interesting. And so in this video, I'm going to break down my assessment of the Robinhood Gold ecosystem from the IRA offering they have to the 3% cashback credit card that the bank offering, and then give you a math breakdown and my personal opinion around the features and benefits that the Gold program has compared to competitors, and then give you my decision on whether or not I'm going to take advantage of the Robinhood Gold offer. And I'll tell you right up front, I'm still torn, and you'll kind of see why at the end. And so I'll kind of get into it and then see what you think. I started to do a couple different scenarios to look at the total Robinhood Gold ecosystem. I took a few different wealth activities and I looked at someone who may max their annual IRA contribution, which is $7,000 a year. I looked at someone who may also have a sizable IRA that they may want to transfer. And if you don't have an IRA or aren't planning to transfer an IRA, no problem. I'm going to get into these other scenarios where we look at if you have cash today sitting around, and then also their 3% cashback credit card. I looked at a scenario where someone spends $2,000 a month on a card just to cover their daily expenses. Let me go into the benefits here. So if I look at someone that maxes an IRA every single year, the Robinhood program has some pretty amazing IRA benefits. And I couldn't find another brokerage that offers this where Robinhood is offering anyone that contributes to an IRA 3% on those contributions. So not only is an IRA an incredible tax savings retirement vehicle, but Robinhood's encouraging you to save more money. And so I think that's pretty cool. If you save $7,000, they give you 3% of the annual match that you would have every single year is $210. Now, if you have a sizable IRA, they allow you to transfer an IRA to Robinhood and they give you a 2% bonus on that transfer. Last year it was 3%, but even at 2%, let's say someone has, $500,000, $500,000 in an IRA that they might want to transfer through like an old employer 401k. 2% at $500,000, that's a $10,000 bonus just for moving an IRA over to Robinhood. If you do a transfer, you have to keep that money with Robinhood for 5 years. With the IRA contributions you make, you have to keep that money there and Robinhood Gold for a year. And so this might play into if you want to do this or not. If you're getting close to retirement or you think you might have to take withdrawals out, then you would have to pay it back as well. The requirement that the IRA matching has is that you have to have the Robinhood Gold feature, which is $50 a month to get these increased benefits. And so if you don't have gold and you contribute to an IRA every year, you get a 1% match, but not the 3%. So you still get something, which is cool. On the interest on cash, if you have a gold account, you get 4% interest on a Robinhood bank account. A couple comments on this. When I was looking at the Robinhood Gold features, even a week ago, this rate was 4.5% for 60 days. And so they've since scrubbed that. The risk here is that these benefits and features are subject to change. And so as you get into this ecosystem, you could find a place where the benefits that you signed up for are not what they remain. And so if you're on the hook to stay with Robinhood for a year or 5 years, you may run the risk that these rates change. But for now, you're earning 4% on any cash that you have sitting there. And if it's FDIC insured, which if you watched my last Fidelity video, I talked about the money market I'm invested in, that is not FDIC insured. They do have an incredible cash back rate on their gold card. It's 3%, which is higher than I've ever received on a cash back card. The average for that is usually 2%. So what I did here is I walked through the total value of what this ecosystem could be for you. So let's say you're someone that has a large IRA, you max your IRA every year, you hold money in cash for your safety net, and you use a credit card to cover your expenses. Well, what would that mean for you? So in this example, if I'm this person, just by switching to this Robinhood ecosystem, I make almost $13,000 in a year just for doing my business with Robinhood. Now, obviously, a big part of this comes from an IRA transfer, and you might not have that. So if we just get rid of this IRA transfer up here completely, and let's say you just have the gold credit card, and you're spending $24,000 a year on it, you're going to make $770 there. Let's say you also have a safety net with them, so you're saving cash for a rainy day. You know, you're earning 4% on your $50,000 in cash, and you're earning 3% on your spending. Well, that's going to be $2,670. And then lastly, if you're also making the IRA contributions, but you don't have a transfer, now you're talking about close to $3,000 just for holding your cash there, for contributing to an IRA, which we hopefully are already doing, and controlling our expenses on a credit card. Okay, so that's the financial breakdown, which is incredibly enticing. So if you're trying to maximize every dollar, this is a pretty juicy offer. So let's compare to some alternatives. I couldn't find another brokerage that matches on annual contributions. So it's pretty cool that they do that because it encourages people to save. There are some limited transfer options if you transfer an IRA around, but it's nothing like the unlimited 2% match that Robinhood has. Most brokerages, like in my last Fidelity video, multiple people commented that they're getting a high yield savings rate above 4%. So for me, whether you're banking with this gold account and earning 4%, or you're at a different brokerage, that's not really any different between these two. So I would just mark these off. You can easily get a no fee, high interest credit card that pays you 2%. So if you did spend $24,000 a year between gold, the 3% gold card, and a regular credit card, you're still making some money on the gold option. But the 2% back, you're still making almost $500 on normal spending that you have. The benefit, of course, with an alternative option is that there's no annual charge. So Robinhood Gold does require that you pay $50 a year. If we look at these difference in benefits, it's almost $10,000 if you have a large IRA that you might want to transfer. It's about $300 if you're just focused on the spending between a 3% card and a 2% card. Once you get into the saving and spending combination, it's really not that big of a difference, because the Robinhood option, you have to pay the $50 a year for, and you're going to get this rate at other places already. It does separate out a little bit by about $400 if you do IRA contributions today. The really cool thing is I chatted in with the Robinhood agents yesterday, and you can do a backdoor Roth IRA through Robinhood straight from their app. So what you can do is you can do your traditional IRA and then backdoor into a Roth IRA if you prefer Roth, and you still get your 3% bonus. So let's talk a little bit about some benefits over the alternative. So you can see here, I laid out the different cash values. Again, if you have a large transfer for a traditional IRA, there's a lot of money on the table right now between now and April to make some extra money on your IRA. And there's still some money here to be made if you don't have a transfer and you're just interested in the 3% credit card and matching in your IRA contributions. If you don't make IRA contributions today, or you're not doing a transfer and you just want to look at, well, how much do I need to spend or save to cover the $50 cost of Robinhood Gold? I did that here. So, on a 3% credit card, you'd need to spend $1,600 roughly to pay for the $50. If you were to save $10,000 at the 4% rate for their bank account, you would basically spend about a month and a half of the interest that you earn on that money to pay for Robinhood Gold. And then the last analysis is just a break even, which says if I could get a 2% credit card for free, or a 3% credit card that I pay $50 for, how much do I need to spend before the 3% card becomes more valuable? And that's $5,000. So if you spend $5,000 on a cashback card a year, then the Robinhood Gold credit card is going to start being worth a little bit more. So that's the math breakdown. And so this is why I'm really torn on which way I go. I've done a lot with Fidelity, but there's money on the table, and I'm always looking at how can I maximize my money. So then I got into, well, what are the different features that I might be losing out on that I get with Robinhood or get with an alternative? So I want to break that down and talk about what I found that swayed my opinion on this a little bit. Okay, so here's some pros on the bank account. So of course you get the 4% FDIC insured match. And I put in parentheses for now. I think the big risk is that there is no guarantee that that 4% is going to stick around. Like I said, it dropped from 4.5% down to 4% in the last couple of weeks. Robinhood uses 12 different partner banks to store your money. And if those partner banks decide that they're not going to offer that rate anymore, then it's just going to go down. And that's typically my caution with most high yield savings accounts, is that they're going to offer juicy rates up front. If they're a new bank and they're trying to get members, they know that they can attract customers with a high rate and then lower it over time back down to a more profitable level for them. And if you're going to be with Robinhood for 5 years because you're transferring in an IRA and you're trying to really invest in this ecosystem, you have to think about what would it look like in a year or 5 years. We just don't know. One cool thing about the Robinhood bank account is that they do have a joint account, which I was sure that you wanted to share a bank account with. They get the benefit of the gold account if you pay for it. So for instance, if you have a joint account, they also earn the 4% interest in that account. Now, if they have their own personal account, they don't, unless they also pay for gold. So let's talk about some cons. So I think one of the major themes that runs through the Robinhood offering is that they juice up their offer for playing in their ecosystem. It's not as attractive if you start trying to play outside their ecosystem. And that really shines through in some of the cons with their bank. There's a lot of fees if you start trying to go outside Robinhood. Outgoing wire transfer, there's a fee. It's not a fee if you wire transfer inside Robinhood. If you're transferring an IRA out through the ACAT system, it's $100. And then if you do debit card transfers to another debit card outside of the Robinhood ecosystem, it's 1.5% to a max $150. One of the more surprising cons, and this is a big one for me, I rarely ever write checks, but I want the option to be able to do it. And I can't believe this. I had to check twice, but it is true. They do not do check writing on their cash account. If you want to ever write checks, I guess you're out of luck. Limited ATM fee reimbursement. Again, if you watched my Fidelity video, I love Fidelity because they reimburse any fee, ATM fee, internationally, anywhere you go in the world. Robinhood does not offer that. They offer in-system ATM fee reimbursement. I'm not sure what their system is, but then there's ATM fees internationally, and there's ATM fees if you don't use their group. I like the fact that with Fidelity, I never even really have to worry about that. Okay, so let's talk about their credit card. It looks cool. You know, everybody talks about it being pure gold, and their CEO flaunts that as a kind of a marketing gimmick, but hey, it looks cool. You get 3% back. We already talked about most cards are at only 2%. And I did look up, you know, it has other perks that other travel reward cards have. There's no foreign transaction fees. You can get extended warranties, rental car insurance. A few cons. So they do advertise this as a cash back card, but you can't get a statement credit. And I actually really like cashback statement credits. And what this does is basically if you spend on a credit card, you could just give that money back to your statement. So you pay less on your statement every month. And my 2% card does that today. So I never really have to worry about transferring that cash anywhere. It just gives me the 2% back on the statement. The 3% with Robinhood is locked into the Robinhood brokerage. Again, they want you to play within their ecosystem. So if you have a Robinhood brokerage and you transfer that 3% to the brokerage, then you can use it there, but you don't get that same benefit outside of Robinhood. So it's 3% in a way if you play with Robinhood, but not fully. And again, you know, it's a $50 annual fee for gold. And so you need to spend at least $5,000 to be worth it compared to a normal 2% cashback card. All right, so let me talk about the IRA features. This is another area where it gave me pause about whether I want to really get into it. Kudos to Robinhood. I love the fact that they're matching contributions, which encourages people to save money, especially as they target a younger demographic. And so if it encourages younger people to save, I think that's awesome. The best in class transfer bonus, they're really invested into getting people in the Robinhood ecosystem. One con is that in their IRAs, they don't trade mutual funds. So if you have mutual funds today, you would need to sell out of them. The cool thing about some of the ETF features on the Robinhood side, you can do dividend reinvestments. So if you have dividends that pay out of your ETFs, you can reinvest those dividends automatically. You can also purchase fractional shares of ETFs, so you're not limited by how often you can invest. And so encouraging people to invest often is another good benefit. If you have a spouse or partner, you can do a spousal IRA contribution on their behalf and also receive a match. So that was cool to confirm. So it's just again another way to get free money through saving. The big drawback, and I couldn't believe this when I talked to them yesterday, is that they don't do contingent beneficiaries on their IRAs. And so what this is if you have a beneficiary, if I were to die, I had a beneficiary that I would give my IRA to. If that beneficiary also died and I wanted it to go to somewhere else, they don't do contingent beneficiaries. So I was chatting with them yesterday, and I think her name was Megan. She was very nice, but she was like, I don't know why we don't do this. I've got a lot of requests. All right, so those are the pros and cons that I saw when I looked at the math behind the credit card, the IRA offer, and the bank offer for Robinhood Gold. The rest of this video is focused on all of that together in whether or not I would recommend this ecosystem to other people, if it's an ecosystem that I myself want to play in, and some different considerations that have me on the fence. And if you are just looking for the math, then I've probably already answered your question. However, I do think it's important to understand what Robinhood is, how they make money. We're going to get into their annual financial statement and look at, is this a brokerage that I want to invest a lot of time if you contribute in an IRA for 1 year or 5 years, and if it's an ecosystem that I support and that I believe is in people's best interests.